Good morning. Sorry. Press the button. Oh, right. Okay. I had a big thing in the middle of the screen.
Oh, okay.
So I asked Jasper for help and he pulled me off Zoom. So I'm not the only technical dinosaur on the planet. So officially, again, good morning. And time is ticking on because it is 1 minute past 10. So we are welcoming this morning on 30 Minutes with, sorry, my camera's over here, the gorgeous and super talented Emily Ponte. So I thought I'd say in French, Ponte, but there's Italian, isn't there, in there?
Yes, Ponte. So,
Ponte.
Although I am half French, half Italian, so either or.
Either or.
Yeah.
So have we got to, do we need to wait a minute for a few people or should we just crack on? Should we just crack on? So, not that you need a particular introduction because you're so well known, so fabulous in our industry, but tell us a bit about yourself and don't tell me you've gone as well.
Me?
Oh, you're back. Right.
Yeah, I've never gone anywhere.
Oh, my screen went blank. So tell us all a little bit about yourself and your journey so far. So what has brought you to where you are today?
Okay, so I mean, I've always been in the beauty industry. Well, I kind of, 24, 25 years ago, trained in beauty, showing my age. I did have a slight gap where I did work for a design agency for a little while, but then I came into it, I don't know, quite a few years ago, and about 12 years ago, I decided to train in permanent makeup. And I think it was kind of, obviously it's been around for years, but you know, there wasn't really anyone in my area that was really doing it. I had quite a good client base already because I was doing a lot of lashes and things like that. So I had a lot of clients ask me, you know, do you know anyone that does permanent makeup? And then it got to that point where I was like, oh, I need to do it, you know? So, and I just had my son as well. Yeah, no, I didn't. I was about to kind of, I was looking at starting a family and all that. And I just thought I really wanted to pursue something maybe more high end and something that maybe allowed me to work slightly less hours. But, you know, I say that I haven't worked less hours at all. If anything, I've probably worked harder since doing this. Yeah. I think it's a misconception, isn't it? That you think, oh, I can charge loads of money so I don't have to work as much. But actually, that's the wrong way to look at it because it's.
But years ago, it was a little bit few and far between, wasn't it? It was very different. Yeah.
There wasn't many people doing it. So yeah, so then so kind of did that, obviously did like basic training all those years ago. And then, yeah, just kind of progressed from there really. I feel like my journey was slightly slower back in the day because I do think things have moved on a lot now. Yeah. And I feel like beginners now there's two ways of looking at it. They're fortunate in the way that there's a lot of information out there now and a lot more support, but then there's the slight misfortune where there's so many people doing it that obviously that competition is slightly more rife now, so it's a bit harder to get your name out there. So it's two ways really. Whereas if, you know, I would say, you know, it took me a good 4 years to feel like I was ever really that good. I see people knocking out brows after a year, and I think it probably took me about 4 or 5 years to get to that standard. Yes. You know. So,
but everything was different. Everything was, it was just very different, wasn't it? Yeah, very different. Yeah. So, can you think of like a really memorable moment in your career?
I mean, there's loads of memorable moments, you know, with clients. So, you know, just having that kind of feeling. I'm very much. I'm very much a giver in the sense of I like to put a smile on someone's face, right? So, you know, when I've done clients that have had, you know, let's say gone through chemo and I have been able to, you know, give someone brows and stuff and that kind of, I'm the sort of person, I'm a nightmare. Like if someone cries in front of me, I'm a sobbing mess. I have to try and sort that out. But so those moments are obviously very memorable. I would say a couple of years ago, there was the Safety and Beauty Awards. Obviously, there's lots of different awards over the years, but Safety and Beauty, I won like I won an award there, which was really lovely because it was, you know, part of the kind of safety campaign, and it was all to do with customer service and stuff. And I just thought that was a really memorable moment for me, because I'd been to the awards for a few years, and it was the first time I'd kind of won that award. So that was really memorable. But I mean, there's lots really. Can't.
Yeah. I think sometimes some of those moments are literally when you know that somebody with chemo or going through something like that, and you have done the ripple effect from that, you know, is they will feel better about themselves, and then their families will feel better about themselves. One thing another. It's the why I think so many of us do it. So, which is great.
Absolutely.
So tell us a bit about your like your signature stuff, you know.
Well, I mean, obviously everyone you know, there's lots of signature styles out there, let's face it. There's probably too many these days, no one can keep track. I mean, obviously, you know, people label what they want to label. Ultimately, brow blend is combination brow. I'm not trying to, you know, reinvent anything here, you know, but for me, I just feel like with lips and brows and everything we do, for me, the reason I came up with the kind of blend thing is just because we're blending, right? We're trying to make something look as natural as possible, and rather than having those kind of harsh lines and that kind of thing, you want to try and blend it all out. So I thought, hey, brow blend, lip blend, let's run with it. So that's kind of where that's kind of come from. And yeah, I kind of yeah, I mean, I love doing the brows, and you know, I do eyeliner as well. I don't promote eyeliner as much. I don't get as much called for liner, actually, if I'm honest. And yeah, I would say it's my least favorite treatment to do. We all have our least favorite. Do you know what? Lips was my least favorite for many years. And then until something clicked. And then yeah.
So I was going to ask you, what's your favorite treatment?
Yeah. Okay, so yeah, I would definitely say lips. I think that's probably evident from my page.
Yeah.
I tend to post a lot of lips. Yeah, I think, yeah, lips. I think the reason I love lips so much as well is I think it's that kind of all the colours as well. I think brows are brows. Listen, you know, there's only so many browns you can have, you know, and I tend to work with maybe 4 colours when I'm doing brows. Whereas with like lips, I think you can't just have 2 colours, you know, that it's very varied, and obviously everyone wants different styles, and you know, there's so many different kind of lipstick colours out there that yeah, it's quite an exciting thing to work with. And yeah, I just find, especially since the kind of COVID era as well, I found people wearing masks. I actually found people were coming up wanting lips more. But I think it's a classic case of you get what you know, I think some people say I don't get enough lips through the door. The point where I got more lips was when I think I did an offer. I was trying out a new brand, might have even been Goldeneye actually, and I thought, let's just do a few people, you know, just while I'm, you know, so not necessarily advertising and saying I need models because I'm new. It's more, I need models because I'm trying out a new colour brand. That's what I say to people, to try and get more models in. That's the best way to word it. And I got a lot of people through my door, which made a lot more pictures, a lot more ways of advertising, and then you just get more people, and then practice and everything. So
and the way you photograph it is brilliant, I have to say. It's just and so I mean, you're incredibly skilled. I mean, there's no 2 ways about it. And but also the way you showcase it is I admire you so much for that, because it's
well, I try not to, I don't know, I try and keep it simple. Like I think obviously we can see some amazing pictures out there, but then sometimes they get borderline too amazing where it almost looks not real. And it's having that medium, isn't it? I want something to, you know, I want to be genuine with what I have. And, you know, I'll be the first to admit that any editing I do is very much a spot, you know, that kind of thing. Like I'll never touch, obviously, the lip, because obviously it's advertising. I think you can tell those that do. But at the same time, if a client is happy for me to post, the last thing she's going to want is me to post her face with loads of spots on her face. So it's only fair for the client that you edit to an extent. But I think, yeah, there's just that fine line, isn't it, between just trying to, you know, having a decent enough camera, just keeping it really simple and not going too fancy with everything.
Yeah, I completely. I think that's it. I think you've hit that nail on the head. Is the fact that your photos are relatable because they're not overacted, you know, and you can see, I mean, you can see these glamour shots, which everybody's like, oh, wow, 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 wow. Yeah. But actually, everybody can look at your photos and think, that's my lip goal, you know, what I've got to aim for. Not too swollen. You've contoured the whole lip. There's no gaps anywhere. Yeah. And I think that is absolutely brilliant, and that shows as well in some of the webinars that you've done, which have been really, really good. So going back to colours, I think somebody's asked a question. Amy Davis asked a question. So she's looking at expanding her lip range. She's got at the moment Nude Invisible, Lavish Lips, Showtime, Midnight Red, and a Lollipop Pink. What would you recommend?
All of those. It's so hard because I do a lot of lips now. I do work with like pretty much all the colours. So when someone's like, what's your top 4? And I'm like, oh, I don't know, I can give you a top 8, but a top 4 is hard. I mean, what she's kind of suggested, what she's put there, definitely. I mean, I love Lollipop Pink, definitely is probably my ultimate favourite colour. Bear in mind that it is obviously quite cool, so I very frequently will always modify with Showtime. Showtime is one of those colours that you very rarely would use it on its own unless you maybe do some kind of neutralising, but it's an absolutely essential product to have, to have in your kit, just because you're 9 times out of 10 probably going to be faced with someone that's got that kind of blue undertone. I think
people can be a bit frightened of Showtime because it looks so orangey. But you don't actually have to be frightened of it at all, do you?
No, you don't. And I think the one thing you don't necessarily have to do is show your client as well. So when we choose a kind of tone, I'll never put Showtime on their lip or anything like that. I'll just behind the scenes know I'm going to add it. They don't need to know I'm adding it, you know? But I will explain to them that their lip might be slightly more on the warmer side when they leave, but obviously explaining the whole time, you know, point of them, you know, it's going to cool down and become more pinky as it heals. But Showtime.
So any other colours that you've got on that list that you would recommend?
The list that she's put. So
So what would you recommend she goes for?
So I've got the. Did she say Kiss Royale? Sorry, do you know?
She didn't mention that one.
Kiss Royale is another classic colour that I personally think should be in anybody's kit. It's a neutral colour, so you know, I do sometimes I've used it neat actually. Other colours, but this is lovely because this just produces a real nice sort of like corally pink look mixed with Lollipop Pink. It's a really lovely colour, and there's a lot of like on your colour essence group, I've posted quite a lot of healed results. And a lot of the time they are using Lollipop and Kiss Royale, if I'm honest. I did Nude Invisible and Naturally Attractive. I actually did on Amy with to match for Pillow Talk. So you know Pillow Talk.
Oh right, yes.
Pillow Talk on Charlotte Tilbury. A picture on my page where it shows this mix. So you've got kind of Nude Invisible, Naturally Attractive. This is a really, really good combination. But obviously it does depend. They are quite light, so you know it's not necessary for everybody. If someone's got quite a dark natural lip, then you have to be a little bit careful because you'll find that there wouldn't be much difference. You're just gonna. There's not going to be much difference to that lip. So that's probably more for your more pale lips. I mean, I do tend to get quite a lot of paler lips through my door, so I am able to use a lot of the paler colours, just because of the clientele that I've had through my door, really. Because
you've got to compete with colour, haven't you? You know, so
And then Bordeaux Addicted again is another one. So I've got my little drawdowns here. And yeah, Bordeaux Addicted is here. Again, this is really nice. It's kind of like, well, it's kind of a darker shade of red, but obviously when it heals, it does go that little bit pinky, and it is really quite nice. If you really want to make the lollipop pink a bit more vibrant, then I would say mix a bit of Bordeaux in with it, and that actually gives a really nice. Again, I've done quite a lot of mixes with that, and I've got a few healed results with that one as well.
Yeah, I agree with you on Jasper's talking to me. Okay, so.
I've got a question for you, just from Abigail. How do you gain more confidence with a brand of pigments when it's new to you? And she says she's getting more confident with the lip pigments, but always a bit scared with brown mixes about knowing how they'll feel.
Yeah, I mean, it's a hard one. It's one of those things that you just, it's about being kind of consistent and not kind of giving up at the first hurdle. You know, I think for me, like when I first started using Colour Essence, for me personally, I don't like flit into too many different brands. I found the brands I was working with before weren't quite working for me. I had to find something that was going to work. And when I tried this, you know, after a few kind of goes, and I'm like, actually, these are working really well, but really nice to work with. And the healed results started coming back. I thought, well, I'm not going to suddenly flip to something else just to try, because then you're never really giving something a go. So the key is to really give something a go. Like I've been using these for a few years now, and I think it's important to see the healed results after a year, not just after 6 weeks, but after year on, year out. And because my results were becoming more consistent with my healing and my healed results, for me, that just gave me the confidence in the brand. So whatever brand you're using, it's important to kind of stick with it for a bit and just keep using it. And just, you know, I mean, all these groups are great, getting some advice, you know, but just, you know, and also don't change too many different things. So if you're changing a pigment brand, that's fine. I wouldn't then change your needles and change your technique and change everything at once, because then you're not actually knowing what's really working for you. For me, it was over a period of time. And for me, like the game changer for me, I'll be honest, was when I started using Colour Essence, started using certain needles. And then obviously, as I got more experience, my technique improved as well. So a mixture of all of it works now. But try not to change up too much and overwhelm yourself, and try to take, it's good to get the advice from these groups, but also take certain things with a pinch of salt, because everyone has their own way, and you have to find your way. So take advice, you know, try things on recommendation, but you know, make it work for you. Not everything works for everybody, you know.
I actually made a flow chart that's on the Colour Essence group that gives you a bit of a guide. So anybody that's sort of struggling of where do I start with colours from the starter kit, there is actually this flow chart. So it's worth having a look on the group just to have a look at that.
And also just one quick point on the Colour Essence pigments. When you look in the brochure, please don't get overwhelmed by all these colour mixes. At the bottom, you've got lots of different colour mixes. It just gives you an option of, you know, obviously with just a few colours, you can achieve lots of different sort of tones and that. But really just focus on the main, you know, there's, you know, 4 cool colours, 4 warm colours. Like, there isn't a lot. So you don't need to get overwhelmed with it. You know, I tend to use it for, you know, there's lots of different colours. It's good to have a varied, but you know, you can start, you know, their starter kit is amazing. It's got 4 main colours, 4 or 5 main colours. And just start working with that and start playing about mixing up the colours, doing the drawdowns, putting them in water, seeing the undertones, and really have a play and get to know that brand. There's lots of YouTube videos as well. There's things from like, obviously Goldeneye UK, but also like Holger, the founder, he's done lots of really informative videos about all the pigments and things. So, yeah.
Fabulous. Right. We've got another question here. What would be your one tip, to achieve a beautiful healed hairstroke?
Okay, so there isn't really one tip. Let's say you've kind of nailed down your technique and your speeds and your pigments and all that. I'd say the one key thing is consistency. So it's almost being consistent with it all. So, you know, with your technique, when, you know, you're doing, we all know we need to do slow speed to get that hair stroke in. Be consistent with it. Don't do one slow and then the next hair stroke you're kind of, you're trying to be too quick with it, or you're, you know, slow on one bit, quick on another, because then you're going to see that inconsistent line. So yeah, I'd say if there's like one tip, it's like it's consistency, and obviously the practice, trying to get that kind of right tip. As soon as you feel like you've got that right technique and you get a good stroke and whatever, then try and keep playing with that and try and practice that. Yeah, I would say that.
With a beginner, would you start your hair strokes at the front, or would you start further in the brow?
Not even with an experienced artist, I wouldn't say start at the front.
Yes,
never start at the front, because let's face it, the front of the brow, like the Cupid's bow on the lip, are the most important areas, the most visual areas, right? The areas that you need to get right. Also, with the tails, you know, of the brow, you'll find you don't mind them slightly darker, you know. So what I tend to do is, I mean, I don't even start with the tails actually, because the tails around the arch, you've got a lot of much thinner skin. So you also have to be a little bit careful on pressure there as well. What I tend to do is I would start in the middle of the brow. I'd almost get that kind of template hair stroke in, and then I almost branch off from that. And I would probably say, and because of the way I am left-handed. So I tend to, I do a bit here.
Like me.
And then I go to the tail, and then I almost work my way back up, and I literally end on the front of the brow, because by then you've got your consistent speed pressure. It's the pressure. So you know your pressure, you know you're getting your pressure right. So by the time you get to the front of the brow, you know that when you put that little hair stroke in, that pressure should just be right. If you're testing it out right at the beginning, you risk going too deep, and then you've got a big deep line there, and
Yeah, perfect. Absolutely perfect. Yeah, I'm so glad you said that, because that would be my one tip. Don't start at the front. Start in the middle. You can hide something then, can't you? Okay, so from another question, best advice you'd give for a newly trained artist who feels overwhelmed? Oh God, we've all
Well, firstly, you're not alone. Obviously, we've all been there. Just try and take a step back. Try not to over analyze what people are saying on all the groups and things like that, because like I say, you're going to get lots of different advice from everyone. You know, take the bits that you need, but just take a step back. Try and just focus on your journey and what works for you. Just because someone's, you know, let's say someone's like fully booked for months, you know, there's been this debate, people fully booked for months in advance, and you're not. Don't worry about that. What do you know? Kind of plan your day at what works for you. I would just practice. You know, if you're overwhelmed because you feel like you can't quite get the technique right and stuff, unfortunately it just takes time, you know. Like, it took me years to get to a point where I feel like confident enough, and you know, don't be afraid to kind of ask for support. There is a lot of support out there. You know, I'm just at the other end of a phone call away, or a message, as I'm sure Debbie, you know, there's lots of people out there that will give you support, and sometimes it just takes, you know, just someone else to kind of like put things into perspective, and you're like, oh, okay. But don't compare yourself. That's the one thing. Do not compare, because everyone has their own journey.
Absolutely. That's lovely. Yeah, it's we've all felt overwhelmed. So I think we can all relate to that. And what was it, 12, 15 years ago, there wasn't any social media, and it was if your training provider.
It was a good and bad thing. It's the pros and cons to both, I think.
Yeah, totally. So so Hazel's just said, as the newbie to colorescence, ratios when blending and mixing pigments would be helpful. Again, that's
it's an individual thing, really, and it depends on the client as well, and you know what look you're trying to achieve. I don't think there's a real set kind of like what ratio you use. I mean, obviously, if you're using the colorescence pigment, so for example, let's say I'm putting 10 drops of pigment in, right? Whether that's a pigment on its own or a mixed pigment, if I'm doing like a shading, so for the brows, I'd mix maybe 2 drops of skin top in with that, which is great, because that actually helps to kind of it's almost manipulating the pigment into being a pigment that you want, that you desire. So giving it a more of a kind of glycerin sliding effect. It's really good for shading. It's really good to help to calm the skin down, nourish the skin as you're working. So, you know, 10 pigment, 2 skin topped, you know, so on that basis. But I think when you're mixing colours, you know, how much Ebony Queen to how much dark redwood, it really does depend. It depends on the individual and what their skin type's like, and the desired end result, really. What I would say is, if you're using, if you've got a colour where you're using a light colour, so let's say Amazing Blonde, and you want to darken it up slightly, do not put the ebony in first. You always start with a lighter colour and just put maybe 1 or 2 drops in, and just put the drops in and mixed until you get that desired colour. If you put the dark colour in first, you'll be there for ages trying to get it light enough, and you're going to
you'll go to a bottle.
I've done it and it's not good.
I think this one is your client, light, medium, dark. And then where do I pick from? The lights, you know, like the Amazing Blondes, you know, if we were to go back to the start, the mediums, you know, okay, warm brunette. Dark, well, I've got the hot chocolate, and I've got dark redwood, I've got the hot chocolate, and I've got the Ebony Queen. Which ones do I need, and how do I mix them? So I think that would, for me.
And then eventually you do get to that kind of point. You will get to that point in your career where you'll be like, oh, actually, I just know, you know, and you just almost like, not do it blindly, because you know, but like, you just get to know the pigment brand. But that does take time.
And we have a group, we have a support group, you know. Send the picture in, or send it to me, or send it to Emily.
Totally.
You know, of what they look like before, and we will always, you know, I know our ambassadors will always help you. You know, if you can get your hands on a before picture, which I always say, outside, full face, in the daylight. So tell us, because I know we've got a warning flashing up.
You got Jasper warning you again, Debbie.
Ideal client or situation for using delicious toffee.
Oh, what's the ideal client? Ideal client or situation for using delicious toffee alone? Delicious toffee alone? Yeah. Okay.
So I very rarely use delicious toffee on its own, if I'm honest. So you've got delicious toffee here. So obviously it's quite a warm, it's a very warm colour. It's quite good for your kind of like your honey blondes, you know, someone with kind of like more sort of red head, I guess, that wants that kind of redder brow, I guess, more of that kind of warmer tone. Again, very rarely use it on its own. I personally find it's too light on its own.
Too light.
I think if you really want to stick with the real warm colours, you could do dark toffee, but I'd probably mix a bit of warm brunette in with it just to darken it. Or if I wanted to make it a more of a neutral colour, then I'd drop a bit of ebony in there or whatever. I would say definitely your honey blondes, your kind of redheads, that type of thing. But I would probably want to darken it slightly, because upon healing, it probably would heal quite light.
Oh, yeah. You on that one, but it's a very versatile colour to use. So what do you like about, please tell us what you like about the Goldeneye brands and the pigments and the products, and
makes me think I like them. Again, it's for me it was a game changer quite a few years ago when I started using them. I found the the pigments healed really lovely. I love the ethics of the company. I love the fact that they're not the cheapest product, but there's a reason for it. Because we charge a lot for what we do, and at the end of the day, putting what goes into someone's skin is really important to me. Obviously the way they're manufactured is really, really high quality. So, and then the support, I'm not just saying that because you're here, but you do, when do you get kind of like, people are up on the high food chain of a brand actually support you the way that Goldeneye do? I'm sorry, but you don't. I mean, I even have Holger, as like founder of these colours, commenting on my posts, because he supports us and how we're using the product. So the support is second to none, and the colours are amazing. And
we're off. We're done.
Time's up.
Time's up.